Okay, so this month we are focused in on addressing issues of fear. And we're declaring in 2019 that we won't fear. And last week we were looking at the area of being challenged by the enemy. And so we were saying, I won't fear the enemy. And this week we're going to be focusing in on change. I won't fear change. Some of the things that we were covering, and I just want to just mention this because the subject of fear, what I'm about to say, the subject of fear, no matter the area, these particular things are just relevant to any area that you're dealing with fear. And what I had covered last week was just letting you know that your brain perceives events as, when your brain perceives events as negatives, it remembers it that way. It will, and it will store these things, and all the details from that particular stimulus will be in the long-term memory, so that if those things are stimulated in another area or in the same or familiar way, your brain calls it up as a negative, okay? And so you may deal with being afraid without consciously knowing why you're afraid. It's just that whatever that thing is, it is triggered or stimulated some things that your brain has stored as negative in your long-term memory. So as we look at I won't fear change, we're still dealing with the fact that issues with change is going to be centered around what's going on in your mind. What's going on in your mind. So what we want to do in this message is get to the place where we recognize that we have to confront change. Okay, we can't just close our eyes and just think, if I don't look. We want to get to the place where we're not even passive about change. Okay, we want to be able to face those unknown elements that may be causing fear to be stimulated, because we talked last week about rewriting those memories, putting something positive in its place. And some of the things that will come up in today's message can be practices that you're using to rewrite those memories that trigger fear. Okay, because it's going to come out of the Word of God. So change, I'm sure we all know this, change can be voluntary, where you decide there's something that you want to change, or it can be involuntary. And that means that the decision to change is being made for you. And you can't do anything about it, you have to change. Okay? By definition, implementing change is a departure from the way that things have been done. That's what it is. A departure from the way things have been done. Now, each of us have personalities. So that's another factor when it comes to change, as far as how we respond. And like I said, there can be involuntary change and voluntary change, but I think I'm probably going to be emphasizing more of the involuntary. Because as we consider ourselves as servants of the Most High, if you don't know it by now, the Lord loves things to be changed. And so there are many things that He'll be moving in us to change. Okay? And if we're His servants, if we understand that we are no longer our own, but we're bought with a price, the life that we now live is His. So when He wants to change, sometimes it feels like an involuntary necessity. Okay? So our personalities may respond, again, because of our personalities, you may respond differently when it comes to change. Some will respond as excited to see that change is coming, okay, and excited to see what those changes will be. That's one type. Another type will be asking, why are we making the change? Is it necessary? I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Okay? And you have another who wants to hear the details so they can assess whether or not they're going to commit to the change. So they need information. And then you have yet another who wants to know, all they want to know is if this is going to advance them in whatever it is that needs to be done. Because as long as it is promoting advancement of vision, advancement in life, then they're for it. Because they want to, move forward in both things. So you have these different personality types that respond to change in particular ways. And resistance to change manifests itself in many ways as well. From foot dragging to inertia, which is standing still and doing nothing, to petty sabotage or outright rebellion. Those are some of the resistance, the resistance to change. Okay, so you may recognize that, whether or not you're a foot dragger, one that stands still, one that sabotages because they don't want it. And these are negative responses to the resistance to change. These are the descriptions of different resistance, ways that we resist change. And then, like I said, out and out rebellion. So I want to do a little activity before I get into the message. And I'm going to use two people. I'm going to use Denise, and I'm going to use Yvette.
Yeah. So, you go first. You go first.
Oh, no. Denise, you're going to go first. We're going to have Denise go first. And this is what I'm going to do. Now, you can take your glasses off. I'm going to have you put on this blindfold. Like your mom. Oh, God, it has nothing. I'm telling you, this is not Bird Box. Okay? Has nothing to do with it. Oh, no, please, you can be at your seat. But I'm going to give you this. So if you could put that over your eyes. She's going to blindfold herself. Now, Yvette, what I need you to do right now is take your chair. I want you to face the wall. Okay. It's cold. You got your coat on. It's cold, and I must be having a flash. Here, go. Oh, cold water.
Punish me now.
Okay, just face the wall.
You ain't go to Lincoln.
No.
Praise God.
Okay. So you're sitting there. Okay, so what's going to happen? I don't want you looking. Okay. So what's going to happen is, Denise, I'm going to have you put your hands in this bag. Okay, and I want you to tell me. I'm gonna guide your hands. Okay. So I'm gonna open this, and then I'm gonna guide your hands to where it is. Okay. So here it is. Okay, I want you to stick your hands inside. Go ahead. One hand. What is it? What does it feel like? Are you uncomfortable by it? Is it jello? Is it silly putty? Is it cold? Do you like how it feels? Is it slimy?
Oh, yes.
It's slimy? Are you okay with it being slimy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, so she's telling me something about her personality. I just realized we need a napkin for her. Okay, because she put both her hands in, so go ahead. No, it's okay. Mom, do we need, how about that? It's just a little bit, okay. Okay, so you can take off your mask.
Okay.
Here.
There's a napkin in front of me.
There's a napkin in front of you. Okay, now I'm gonna let you. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna let. So I'm gonna close this. This is all you had. This is what it was. You just had your hands in there. Okay, so and look how she responded to that. Okay, that was something goo. Anybody else put their hand in goo?
I wouldn't like it.
You want to put your hand in looking at it? See, you don't want to put your hand looking at it. She's in that place. Ooh, I think
Is that putty?
Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do the same thing with Prophetess Clay, but this time we're going to put her blindfold on, and her instructions are going to be just slightly different. Okay. Okay, so can you put your blindfold on? Okay, I'm going to have you put your hand in the bag. Now, what I'm going to require is that you hold it for at least 5 seconds. Okay? Okay, so I'm gonna put the bag in front of you. I'm gonna put the bag in front of you. I want you to stick your hand in. You have to hold it for at least, stick it in, and then just hold it inside the bag for at least
Am I
5
going in?
seconds. Yes, go in. Hold it for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you can let it go. You want to see what it is? Do you know what it is? What did it feel like?
It felt like a fuzzy bean bag buddy. One of the little animals.
One little animal. Okay, so I'll show you what it is. You want to take your blindfold off. Okay, it's just a. Okay, so let me ask you this question. Okay, now you turn around. I didn't want you to see what she was doing because I didn't want you to see it. That was all a part of not knowing. That was all a part of the whole unknown element. Hearing things going on around you, determining what you think about what's about to happen to you based on what you hear happening to someone else. Okay. So I wanted her to not see what you were doing or see what I was doing so that she didn't know. All she had was information coming to her like, okay, what is it? Okay, now is it about to get worse? What were your thoughts when I was coming to you with your turn?
What is my turn?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, I just hope that it's not squishy. It's like, whatever it was, I was like, slime. Slime. No, I don't think I can do slime and good.
Okay, so you had some thoughts that were going on because you were anticipating what was about to happen to you. Okay, so I'm just looking right now. I'm just looking at the fact that when there's uncertainty or elements that are unknown, okay, we have a certain anxiety that we may feel about it. But sometimes even knowing the person it causes you to have even a different response. Because if I was a stranger telling you to stick your hand in the bag, and okay, so when I told you when you stick your hand in the bag, I want you to hold it for at least 5 seconds. What were you thinking?
Oh, what did I think? I can do this.
She was talking herself into it because she didn't know what was going to be there. But when you put your hand in and you felt what it was, what happened?
I started laughing.
Okay, because sometimes when it comes to the things or the changes, we may have a certain anxiety about it before we even know what it is. And then when we find out what it is, like, what was all the anxiety for?
Yeah.
You didn't even know.
Yeah.
You don't know until you actually experience whatever it is that, could be before you. So, I'll go this way. So, like I said, it was really just something simple, just to just bring in what happens with the unknown element. Now, we wish that things were so simple, but have you ever had something that you were really, a change that was coming that you were really uncomfortable with?
Amen.
And then when it happened, you were like, oh, well, if I had known this.
I'm still in the process.
Okay. And so that's why I keep saying that when it comes down to fear, it's the things that your mind is working with, the experiences, the negative experience or even good experiences, smells, the weather, all of those things can be factors in how you feel about or how fear is triggered in you. So as it relates to change, there are common reasons why we actually resist change. Like I said, when I said that it can be involuntary or voluntary, but I am going to focus on the involuntary situations where you can't control it, but you have to face change, because this is going to be really key. I believe that there are things that the Lord is going to be doing, has begun doing, going to be doing in your life, and it's going to present an awareness that change is coming, okay? And you may have some thoughts about that, but we want to begin to learn how to look at those things now so that we're not resistant as the Lord does that. Because do we know what the end of the thing is? Do we have a promise on the end of the thing when God is involved in whatever it is that He's guiding you into? Yes, we do, okay? But we have to get to that. So, some of the common reasons for resisting change. First of all, sometimes people just don't want to leave their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm just going to say it. I love it. You hear pastors say it. Instead of looking at leaving your comfort zone, see it as expanding your comfort zone. Okay, because you can start in a job and you can know how to do this. And then they say, we're moving you to this department. You don't know anything about that department. Okay, and you may be comfortable because you know your job. Okay, you have these areas where you know it. But when you moved into this other place, doesn't this become another place that you know? Don't you add it to a resume?
Yeah.
You're expanding your comfort zone. Okay, you're not coming out of your comfort zone. You're expanding your comfort zone. So that is one way that you can look at things. If you're one who struggles with change when it challenges your comfort zone. And remember this, you have to go out on a limb to reach the fruit. There are things that you want to get to, but you got to go out on a limb to reach the fruit. Okay? Another reason, people lack trust in the one making the changes, including God. Okay? Including God. And that's what I was saying. I said, if a stranger had walked up to you and opened up a bag and said, I want you to put your hand in this bag with a blindfold on. Okay, so the fear that you may have for change can also be triggered by the individuals. If you have to, you have to build trust. And trust is something that is built over time. If trust is not built, then mistrust is the default response, and so then there's going to be resistance. So when it comes down to the things that God is leading you to do, you have to build trust in God. That's a real activity. You have to not just wait for him to say, you're going to Africa. I'm laughing because I know that is a reality for our ministry. But you're not just waiting for him to say something big. In everyday life, there's opportunities to build trust in God. And with our children, with our jobs, with relationships, with our finances, you have to build trust. And if you will allow that trust to be built, if you will consciously realize that the Lord is trying to get you to trust him. He wants you, and he wants being in his word is one way in which we build trust. Okay, but doing what he says is the other way that we build trust. Because when we get the result that the word promises, it builds trust. And you're like, well, I know that the word works. I've already done this. You can't talk me out of it. Okay, so that's where trust is built. And so that's a way in which you can deal with being resistant to change. Build trust in your relationship with God. Another area. Change can bring new possibilities, but it can also bring problems. So the thought is something could go wrong, and sometimes that's the reason that we are resistant to change. What if something goes wrong? As it relates to God, he says that I will never leave you nor forsake you. I will never leave you, no never. I will not loose my hold or loose my grip on you. That's what it says in the Amplified. I didn't write the verse down. I know it's in Hebrews. But he said, never, no, never. It is possible. Let's be real, okay? It is possible that something could go wrong, that is a product of change. If I want to paint, I want to see new colors in my home, there's things that can happen as a result of that. I could feel cheerier and brighter, and it could just shift the atmosphere in my home and all like that. But I also have to move furniture and cover furniture, and sometimes there can be spills, and sometimes it's just a big mess waiting for the newness to reveal itself. Yes, change does bring possibilities, and sometimes there are problems. Something could go wrong, but you're not at the end of things just because something looks like it went wrong, okay? Then you just go to God and start troubleshooting. Let him start troubleshooting. Sometimes he's the one that is holding the answer right there. And so we just we talked about that last week. Call the Lord. Sometimes we call everybody else first, and then we're like, God, I'm tired. I've been talking to everybody else about my stuff. I'm just tired. I don't feel like talking to you about this. This shouldn't even be happening to me. And then we just go there. That's the conversation that we have. Okay. But you can create a process for facing change. Okay. What's really happening? Do you have all the facts? You know, I'm saying this in general, it just depends on what it is that's changing. But you can develop a process for dealing with those things, especially if you know you're in a work environment that shifts a lot. You know, when I thought I wanted to have a family, I had this picture in my head about what family was. How many know change was coming? Yes, I had a picture. Yes, I knew that I would be up. I didn't know what that really felt like. I didn't know how often. I didn't know whether I was going to have strength that day or the next day or whatever. I didn't know I was going to have a really, really bad day and still have a family. The family didn't go away because I had a really, really bad day. Okay? There are things that are a part of that. But as long as you understand the nature of being in this life, that's one thing that's for sure, change. No matter how your personality responds to change, it's going to happen. Now you can sit down on it, but I find this to be true. Since purpose is putting you by God, okay? If you resist moving forward, you understand this. God is working in you to will and do his good pleasure. So if you're resisting doing anything and all you want to do is just sit and watch Netflix marathons day after day after day or night after night after night, depending on if you have a job, and do nothing else, all you're doing is holding back your own purpose. You're not hurting God. Yes, there's some people that could benefit from you. There's things that you'll never discover. But see, that's all negative for you. It's all negative for you. Okay? To move forward means to discover more and do greater things. It can be so much better for you. And yeah, sometimes you have to push past that rough spot. I did that in the workout. I've been working out now since November. I've been doing this workout. And look like nothing is happening. Okay? This is what the scale tells me. But the type of workout that I'm doing, it actually works on the core of the body. And I had said, you know what? I'm glad I didn't give up when I didn't see the scale changing. Because my body is changing. And I found that just walking around, I can actually feel, I'm like, oh, there's a six-pack under there. Now I'm just... There are things that are happening. I can feel it. I can't see it, but I can feel it. Okay? But there was that moment where it looked like nothing was happening. Okay? But you have to keep going. This isn't everything. You have to keep moving. Okay. Another reason for resisting change, loss of control. You feel that you lose control of your territory. You know what? If you were single and you get married, you will lose control of your single life. Okay? It is different when you go into a relationship with someone. It is. There are things that you're like, well, that's fine, this, and this, but I'm not giving up this. But you may find if you really want that relationship to work, you may need to reconsider the area that you're trying to hold on to. Okay? It's when we make these covenants with ourselves, what we're not going to do, that we actually find ourselves actually resistant to change that could be so beautiful for your life. Another area, major change. Okay, so the level of change. There are little changes that we can make in our day-to-day life or whatever, and change can be major. Moving to another state. Okay, going to Kenya. There are some things that God will be calling us to or leading or working in us to do, okay, that it's big. But like I said, it's still a process of considering it. First of all, who is it that's calling me to do it? Yeah. Why? If you understand that, I don't know, it's just that I feel that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm not comfortable, but I mean, just your personality isn't comfortable with it. But inside you know this is what you're supposed to do. Just like that moment of prayer.
Yeah.
Okay. I promise you, there are things that are right for you that you may be resisting. But it's right for you. It's prepared for you. Okay? He had an interpreter prepared for you. Okay? It reminds me of in the Bible with the lepers that were on the outside of the city, but the people in the city were dying because they were besieged by the enemy. And at one point, the lepers said, you know what? Let's go to the enemy. Perhaps they'll take pity on us, and if not, they'll just kill us. We're just going to die anyway. If we sit here, though, we are going to die. And there are things in our life that God is prompting us to, you have to move from that place. Because if you sit there, the purpose in you dies. Okay? There are people that are in relationships that are toxic. But they feel they know that situation. You know what they say, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. That's craziness. So they stay in that situation, okay, because at least they know that situation. Or the enemy has convinced them that if you change, you won't have their love, or you won't have a place to stay, or whatever. It can be all kinds of things that the enemy loves to back you in a corner and make you think that if you make this change, which is supposed to be for your betterment. You know, if you're in an abusive relationship, to come out of the abuse is better for you. Okay, but you have to get to the other side of that. And sometimes it may be just a rough transition, but you should make the transition, because what you got is not good. It's toxic. If you sit here, you die. Okay? So, again, this is, reasons why we sometimes resist the change. I have 3 more. Okay, so another reason is because we feel inadequate for whatever that change is. Maybe, again, like I said, change into another position. I don't know if I can do it. Can I do it? You know, when people feel stupid, they don't want to change. Okay. It's like, I don't know this stuff. You're not putting me out there. Okay, that's how we feel about that. You know, but there's a verse in 1 Corinthians 1, verse 27 through 29. I'm going to read it. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27 through 29. It says, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of the world to confound things that are mighty. And the base things of the world and things which are despised has God chosen, yes, and the things which are not, to bring to nothing the things that are. Why? It says that no flesh should glory in his presence. It's not about you. You may feel like you're inadequate. Other verses tell us that he's qualified and made us fit. I think the verse before that, in verse 26, it talked about he called you for this purpose. And when God is doing a thing, it doesn't matter about what you think you don't know. He's moving you forward because he's chosen you. There is nothing about the knowledge that I had. There was nothing in the knowledge I had that qualified me, in my estimation, to go and have an international ministry. How do you say that God has called you to an international ministry when you've never even flown a plane before? Okay. I was so unqualified in every way. Okay. Not trained to the language, the culture, none of that. Okay. Never been there. There's all kinds of reasons. You follow what I'm saying? When we disqualify ourselves, we feel inadequate. Like, I don't know enough. There are plenty of people that God has called to the nations that are sitting at home in fear. They even have the money, but they're sitting at home in fear of what they don't know. Fear of looking foolish. I'm telling you, there are a lot of wealthy people that we know by name that went through those stages, and they went through those stages to get to where they are. But as long as we're sitting in fear will never go forward and try. What is it? Nothing beats a failure but a try. Okay. But he said that no flesh should glory in his presence. God is the one working in you. Okay? Sometimes we resist change because it means more work. Look, that's a universal challenge. Change can very much mean more work. Most times it does. But you know what? Success and progress indeed require more work.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about it as change when it could be progress. You know what? My progress requires more work. Instead of saying this change is going to require more work, my advancement is going to require more work. You know, how you say it, how you see the thing, your perspective is everything. Okay, so you have to consider how you are looking at this. You know, when a baby is born, they have to learn a language. They got to learn a whole language. And you don't even know how to help them. All right. They got to learn a language. They got to figure out how to use their mouth. They got to figure out how to use it. They're stabbing themselves in that. I'm just telling you. But it takes work. Okay. And you see babies get there. Look at it. These were babies. I was a baby. It takes work. You're continuing to move forward. Don't be afraid of work. Don't be afraid to progress. Don't be afraid to advance. Don't be afraid. Okay, I'm not going to get into your message, Pastor. Okay, and then last areas here. Some are resistant to change because of past resentments. You know, the past is something else. Always trying to choke the life out of your future. The ghosts of the past are always lying in wait to haunt us. As long as everything is going well, they remain out of sight. But the minute you need a cooperation for something new or something different, then the ghosts of the past spring up. And old wounds are reopened, historic resentments are remembered, sometimes going back many generations. Okay, as soon as that change, that particular thing has opened up to you, those things show itself. But you know what? Again, the things that happen in the past, forgetting those things are behind. You know how that works. You know that it's choking. You know when you know that there is something that is in front of you that you need to do, and you're hearing your past come up. That should tell you right there, because you already know you should be doing that. That should tell you right there, this has to be resisted. I have to put this to sleep or kill it once and for all. Okay, so past resentments want to show up. And I said this is the last thing I said this, but sometimes we resist change because we can get hurt. Love can hurt. Anybody know that? Mm-hmm. You open up your heart to love. It doesn't have to be a male-female relationship. There are people that isolate themselves because of the past, and they isolate themselves because they've made a covenant and said, I'll never get hurt again. Okay, but we have to, again, all these things, it's just the reasons why we resist, but all those reasons can be dealt with, can be addressed. There is something to be said about every single one of these, every single one of these areas that may be challenging. Now, you may have found when I named it, some of them you may recognize more so. It's a greater thing that you deal with, but deal with it. That's what I'm saying. Deal with it. Face it. Don't let it take any more of your time, any more of your resources. Deal with it. Face it. So this is what we want to be our confession. And I have something I'm going to pass out to you at the close of this, but your confession, Philippians 4:13. And I'm reading these verses out of the Amplified. You can go back into them and make them your confession. But Philippians 4:13 and the Amplified says, I have strength for all things in Christ who empowers me. I am ready for anything and equal to anything through him who infuses inner strength in me. I am self-sufficient in Christ's sufficiency. Psalms 138:8. The Lord will perfect that which concerns me. Your mercy and loving kindness, O Lord, endure forever. Forsake not the work of your own hands. You're putting yourself in the hands of the Father. There are things that you have to begin to say and to know, okay, that you can, and that God is the one who is doing the thing that you are endeavoring to change. But the Father also has a response. In Isaiah 41:10, again, the Amplified, it says, and this is the Father talking, he says, fear not, there is nothing to fear, for I am with you. Do not look around in terror or be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and harden you to difficulties. Yes, I will help you. Yes, I will hold you up and retain you with my victorious right hand of righteousness and justice. This is the Father talking back. I will not fear change. That's Isaiah 41:10. And then my final scripture here, my final words, the conclusion of it, Colossians 3 and verse 15. And let the peace, the soul harmony, which comes from Christ, rule and act as umpire continually in your heart, deciding and settling with finality all questions that arise in your minds. And be thankful, appreciative, and giving praise to God always. Again, these are verses that if you meditate on this, as we're dealing with, whenever we have these scriptures that we're dealing with each week, take those things, meditate, speak those things, pray those things over your life. Because in 2019, we're saying, I won't fear. I won't fear. And that faith will rise in you to walk that out, because faith comes from hearing a revelation of the Word of God in your heart.